So you have a dream, you feel a tug to go for it, but maybe you're overwhelmed with what to do. Maybe it feels so big in your head that you don't start at all. Well, if this is you, trust me when I say this episode is going to help you actually go for that dream and that vision that God has placed on your heart. This is the Best Believe Podcast, and I'm your host, Michaela. By the end of this episode, you are going to have some mindset shifts that are truly going to help you transform your life. Because when we do the thing that we're fearful of, when we do the thing that we're scared to do, that's when true breakthrough happens. For me, following that big vision that God placed on my heart started with my first yes. It took the first step. And so I'm about to help you do just that. Take your first step. I'm about to help you close the gap between where you are and where God destined you to be. And we're going to do this together. So thank you so much for being here. I am so excited for this episode. The Lord spoke to me a lot. I have a lot of notes, and bear with me. I normally just talk, and the Lord talks to me as I flow, but I knew He needed me to come prepared and come with purposeful action that you can actually apply in your life, practical things, so that when you leave this episode, you have steps that you can take to move forward. I don't ever want to just tell you things that have worked for me and then not tell you how you can apply it in your life. Because remember, this podcast is a podcast where we grow together. We are on the journey towards our dreams together. So I'm taking all the lessons that I'm learning from my mistakes or the things that I've done well and showing you how you can do it too. The Lord has been dealing with me with so many things lately, and I'm just so excited to get into this episode. So, you are going to leverage what God has placed within you. You are going to leverage what you already have. So, what is leveraging? Leveraging means to use something to its maximum advantage. And I believe that God is calling you to do something so big, and maybe you're afraid. You're afraid to go for it because you think you need something that you don't have. You're obsessing over the thing that you think you need. But I'm here to tell you, you already have something inside of you that you can leverage and use to its maximum capability and capacity. And what I want you to do is reframe your mind to think about, what do I have versus what I don't have? So what does leveraging what you have look like? For one, it looks like understanding who you have with you. So you are on this podcast because I'm sure you're a believer, or you're learning to grow your relationship with God, learning to grow closer to Jesus. And so I just want you to reframe your mind for a second to think about the fact that if God is calling you to do something, He is going to be with you through it. So when you understand who you have with you, it allows you to show up differently. It allows you to walk into a room differently. It allows you to speak differently because you understand that He is the one who called you and validated you to do that thing, no matter what anyone else thinks. What's most important here is to move in that obedience. You see, we don't want to do the thing because it doesn't make any type of sense to us. We look around and we see, well, I know that it's going to take X, Y, and Z to make this happen. And yet God is calling me to do that, but I don't have those things. And this brings me to a verse that I want to read you where Jesus is leveraging what He has. We're going to be reading John 2, 1 through 9. I'm reading out the NLT version. The next day, there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and His disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, that's not our problem," Jesus replied. "My time has not yet come." But his mother told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told his servants, "Fill the jars with water." When the jars had been filled, he said, "Now dip some out and take it to the master of the ceremonies." So the servants followed his instructions. When the master of ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridge room over. When I read this verse, first of all, I've read this before, but it didn't come to me in this way until I was watching Pastor John Hanna's sermon. And it just reminded me what God had been speaking. Leverage what you have. So they didn't have any more wine. But Jesus knew what he had within him. So what did he do? He told them to pour it with water. And the people on the other side just had to have faith because to them it seemed crazy. And they tell him to go to the jars, dip it out, and go serve it. And so what looked like water became wine. And I just want to tell you, you're looking at something that God has told you to do that looks one way, but when you actually follow through and go through the movement and take the action, something is going to shift. I feel that. Something is going to shift when you do what he tells you to do, despite you thinking that you can't, and despite you thinking that it's not going to work. We don't have to feel like it's going to work. We just have to trust that he's going to make it happen. So if he's telling us to do it, we can do it. And I want to give you some practical ways to determine what you have right now that you can leverage to actually go for that dream or that vision that he's called you to. So I have some questions that you can ask yourself. Do I have God? Yes. Do I have skill? Do I have money? Do I have time? Do I have brand? Do I have relationships? You can ask yourself these questions to determine what do you have out of that list. Let's say the only thing that you have is God on that list. That is more than enough. The rest will come because you have God with you. Ooh, that's so good. The rest are going to come because you're doing what God said, because you're walking in obedience, because you're doing what God told you to do. If I think about way back, all I had was God and skill. And I'm correlating this to social media right now. I had God, I had skill. I didn't have the relationships. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the brand. I didn't really have the time. So what did I do? I followed through and put into practice what God needed me to do. So that was me showing up online, talking about him. Little did I know, through me doing this, this was going to lead to relationships. Ooh, y'all, I'm so excited for this. Little did I know that me showing up online talking about him with the skill that I had and with God, which was all I had at the time, would allow me to gain the relationships. It allowed me to build a brand. Oh my gosh. This allowed me to have income coming in from a way that I never expected. And then if I think about right now, Try not to get distracted by this very important message, but if you're anything like me, you know what it feels like to have so many different things going on in your life that it's easy to lose focus on your faith and your God given dreams. That's exactly why I created the Best Believe Journal. It's more than just a journal, it's a daily guide designed to help you seek God first and walk in your destiny, even with a busy schedule. In just 5 to 10 minutes a day, you'll notice just how much your thoughts will evolve and elevate, leading to real change, deeper fulfillment, and more intentional living. Everything that I use on my journey to help me live in true fulfillment is inside this journal, knowing that it will do the same for you. Whether you're a busy professional, a mom, or just someone who's ready to step into their God-given authority, this journal was created for you. If you're ready to say yes to a more intentional and fulfilling life, know Made by the Word is here to help you get there. Visit madebytheword.com to grab the Best Believe Journal for you and a friend and start becoming the person you were always destined to be. That's madebytheword.com, MADEBYTHE word.com. I love you. Now back to the show. Oh my gosh. If I think about right now, I have a business made by the word. I realized I was given this revelation that although I don't have the money to pay for ads, what do I have? I have God. I have relationships. I have a brand. I feel chills right now. I have skill. And keep in mind, I have developed skill the more I continue to show up. And I have God. So when I first started, I had 2 things. But now where I'm at now, I have basically the entire list. And it showed me that despite me not having the money to pay for ads to get the business in front of the people that I believe it could go towards, He's still allowing my business to reach who it needs to reach because of what He has given me through that first yes. Oh my goodness, this is making me so happy just thinking about the goodness of God. Oh my goodness. I would jump right now if I wasn't sitting in my bed. But no, seriously, like, this is powerful. This is powerful. I was able to build a brand by Him telling me to show up with Him and my skill. Through that brand, I was able to build trust, relationships, and people were able to see my heart. That when I launched a business, those people supported me at the end of the day. And that's not something that I take for granted. That is something that is so powerful. And I just hope that how I'm explaining it gives you some inspiration that although you may not have the things that you think you need to go for it, you actually have something. You have something you can leverage. You have something you can use to go after the vision that He has called you to do. And this brings me to my next point, is that we make it bigger in our heads than what it actually is. Our minds resort to thinking from 0 to 10. And so we allow us wanting to be perfect and getting to 10 versus getting to 1, going from 0 to 1. So if we could reframe our mindset from thinking 0 to 10, let's think 0 to 1. What is my first step? What is my first step? And this is something that you can ask God for. And I'm sure if He's telling you to do something, then He's giving you that first step. Or maybe He's put that nudge on your heart, and maybe He's expecting you to do and take initiative towards taking what you think is possibly the step and allow your relationship with Him to guide you, to tell you if you're doing it wrong. So remember, as you take your first step, He is going to give you strategy along the way. This is why I say on this podcast, we are figuring it out along the way because God doesn't give us all the answers up front. He doesn't. But I want to remind you that I didn't just wake up and go from God and skill to God, skill, relationship, brand, money-ish, time. Like, that was an entire process. So much happened in between. But that's not to discourage you. That's meant to inspire you, to show you that it's possible for you. It is possible for you. So, for example, my finances were something that I viewed as 0 to 10. Like, it felt so large in my mind because I had never done it before. Because of the fact that I've never actually budgeted, I've never tracked my finances, which is why I've never been able to really keep the money that I've been receiving, or I'm in debt, or I spend it the wrong way. And so God told me, because I asked, I said, God, what is a dysfunction in my life that I have been carrying with me that I need to get rid of so that I can actually flourish and have divine acceleration this year? And you know what he told me? Finances and organization. So what I did was, first of all, I thought really large about it. And then I got over it and I said, okay, what is my first step? So what I did was I reached out to a friend, AKA I leveraged a relationship, and I asked, how do you budget? How do you manage your finances? And they gave me a document to help track. So with that document, it looked very overwhelming. But once they explained it to me and I started filling it in, I was like, oh, this isn't hard at all. I was making it hard in my head. The enemy was planting fear to keep me from actually doing the thing that I know would propel me forward. And so if there's something that you feel like is so big, I just encourage you to do it. There have been a lot of you who have been messaging me, telling me you feel God has been nudging you to start a YouTube channel. And you say that you don't have a lot of time. So another side note to the questions that I was mentioning earlier about, do I have God? Do I have skill? Do I have time? So let's say you don't have any of those things. How can you take an audit of the things you don't have to see how you can make room for it? So for the people who are saying, I just have a time restriction, I can't edit as good as everyone else, okay. How about instead of focusing on being where everyone else is at, focus on where you are. So if where you are is you're just pulling up your camera or pulling up your phone and filming yourself talking, and it's 5 minutes, upload it, and that's it. You don't have to do what you see everyone else doing, because I promise you there is one person who has uploaded. I've literally seen it. Someone did the most low effort video. It was probably 5 minutes long. There was no thumbnail. There really wasn't even a good caption. And the video was at 1.2 million views. That's not to say the views are the main point, but my point is they posted what they could. You can post where you're at. And let's say the editing, okay? You want your editing to be better. Go ahead, post where you're at. It could be low effort, although you may want it to be another way. Just do what you can right now, and over time, you can prioritize taking 30 minutes a day to watch a video to grow that skill. And when you put your focus in growing that skill, your editing is going to get better. I just highly suggest focusing on doing one thing better each time you post. That's what I do. And I'm really talking to myself right now. Because when it comes to my Instagram page, I know a lot of people mention how they love my stuff, and I'm so appreciative and grateful. And I love my stuff too, but I also am like, dang, I could just do so much better. I can be really hard on myself because I just strive for excellence every single time. Like, I want to do the best that I can. And sometimes I'll look at my stuff and be like, wow, I could do so much better than this. But the Lord gave me so much peace last night. We were up late. Let me tell you, super late, just strategizing, going over what I need to do, who I'm talking to, the type of content that I'm going to start posting now. And it just gave me so much peace because I sought him for that strategy. And although I sought him for that strategy over a month ago, he gave me bits and pieces along the way. I just had to keep showing up and be obedient, knowing that he never told me to stop posting online. So I'm going to keep posting and I'm going to get better and I'm going to try to do the best I can at the end of the day. Something I heard Pastor John Hanna say is doing nothing is not an option. Doing nothing is not an option. Be obedient. Walk in it. This is the way, walk in it. God is telling you, this is the way, walk in it. Listen. Don't miss the call. Because he's calling you because you can do it. And so I'm going to go ahead and give you 3 things that you can take with you as this episode is ending as your next 3 steps. Your next 3 steps of how you're going to go about following your dreams. Number 1, sit with God and find out what he's telling you to do. This doesn't mean you sit and wait and do nothing if he hasn't said anything. Maybe you're trying new things, and then when he's like, that's not it, you pivot and you go to the next thing. When it came to music for me in the past, although I wasn't in my true purpose, he used that for what I'm doing now. But at the time, I thought that I wanted to make beats. I made beats and I was like, I really don't like this that much. So then I randomly went to a studio session and I saw that there was an audio engineer. That's someone who like messes with the vocals, makes it sound good. It puts all the pieces together. So I was like, I think I'll try that. I tried it. I loved it. That's what I started to do. So if I didn't try the first thing, it wouldn't have led me to the next thing. So don't allow what you don't know keep you still in a place where God is just trying to use that to help you pivot. Number 2, determine what you have and make room for more. So we went over this. Determine what you have. Do I have God? Do I have skill? Do I have money? Do I have relationships? Do I have brand? What do I have that I can use for what he's called me to do? And if I don't have time, how can I make time? What can I let go of so that I can actually do what he's calling me to do? And number 3, take action. When you do nothing, nothing happens. This is all about purpose-driven action. We are taking purposeful steps because you can be consistently doing something, but be consistently doing the wrong thing. And we want to consistently show up and do the right thing. And we only know what is right when we have the discernment to know what God is really pushing us to do, because the enemy will distract you with something good instead of receiving something great that God has for you. And it's easy to get caught up in the good because we feel like what we're sitting in is really nice right now and you don't want to let it go. But God's like, just let it go. I have something so much better in store for you. So if this is what God is telling you, just go for it. You can do this. I'm not the only one who can do this. You can do it too. And this is something like I have to die to my flesh every day and be like, okay, God, if you want me to show up and do this, I'll do it. I felt that way today about this podcast. I was like, God, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, but I'll show up and I'll do it because I know that you're with me. I know that you chose me. You validate me. If I don't think I did that well, I just know that I'm doing what you called me to do. And that's really it. That's really it. I didn't ask for this. I didn't. But he chose me. And through our relationship growing, my desires have become his desires. And now I enjoy this. That doesn't mean it gets easier. I just show up because I have the confidence that he's with me, he's strengthening me, he's providing me the words to say, he's giving me the courage to sit here in front of this camera, the courage to edit it, the courage to post it and share it with you, where thousands of people tune into these things. Like, that takes bold faith. That takes bold courage. And that's something that you have in your hands too. I just had the willingness to show up. Are you willing to do the thing he called you to do despite you feeling like you don't have what you need, despite you feeling like people are going to laugh at you? Whatever it is, remove it out your mind. I want you to grab your chest and release it off of you. I release the doubt. I release the fear, and I grab courage. I grab your strength. I grab your joy. I grab your peace. And that's it. So thank you so much for tuning in. If this episode blessed you, please share it with your friends. I know that if they have a dream, then this video is going to help them at some point. So I'll be filled with so much gratitude if you are willing to share it with them. And whether you're listening on any audio podcast or watching on YouTube, just know that I'm so grateful. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss anything. And if you're willing to rate this podcast 5 stars, that is how this podcast gets pushed out to everyone. And I would just be so thankful because there are people who need to hear what this podcast provides, which is just what the Lord is sharing with me, and also what he's doing in my life and the experiences that I go through. I'm not going through them just for me. I'm going through them so they can help you. So I love you and I thank you. Bye.